Thank you so much for staying tuned to this channel. Welcome to yet another edition of International Forum. I am Wilson Marshall. Well, today is all about the riot in Brazil. The pro-Bolsonaro protesters, they went out into the street and key government offices, the capital, they ransacked it, and all of a sudden, they were like, is this what would have panned out in the capital riot in the U.S.? Is it the shadow of what they would have seen in the U.S.? Because this time around, the lawmakers, legislators were not around, majority were not around, and they took mass to distort, scatter everything they came across, to tell Brazilians, to tell the world that they're not in tune with Bolsonaro losing that election to Lula da Silva. According to them, something should be done about it. To the extent that they went to the military premises, to encamp in front of it, calling for military intervention, saying what they saw in the election is unacceptable. Anyway, over 1,500 of them were arrested, and Lula da Silva made something clear. They will all be punished for what they did. What do you feel about that? Brazil riot, an affront to democracy. Hours ago, pro-Lula da Silva protesters also came out to the streets to condemn what pro-Bolsonaro protesters did. Is it going to be a free-for-all if all is not put in place? Now, analysts will throw more light on that. Join me to welcome a legal practitioner, human rights activist, political affairs commentator, Barrister Emmanuel Obakwala. Barrister, welcome to International Forum. Appreciate you coming.
Good afternoon, Nigerians. Good afternoon, Wilson.
All right, very close to him. He's a politician, one-time vice chairman of a local government, and of course, another time acting chairman of a local government, and as a politician. I'd like to call him an elder statesman now. Honorable Desmond Dugo, welcome to International Forum.
Good afternoon,
appreciate you coming.
Thank you for having me.
He is a clergyman, a lecturer in Uniben, a political analyst, political affairs commentator. I like to call him an activist also, because talk about activism one way or the other. He's into ASU and all this bagagbogo thing. Let me to welcome Honorable Frank Amego. Welcome to International Forum.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate you coming. So I'm going to start off with you, Honorable Frank. I mean, all this started as a joke. There was a mild protest when the results of Brazil presidential election was called. People went out there in the street, they blocked the major roads. All of a sudden, tranquility prevailed, and they all went back home. And right now, Lula da Silva have been sworn in as president. Was like, what we did last time wasn't enough. This is like a dream. Let's tell the world what we're feeling, and they choose to ventilate the anger. What do you feel about all this?
Yeah, the anger of such protesters was baseless. It was unnecessary and it's condemnable, because the persons they are protesting for didn't do well. Then you are protesting against one that just won in an election. And if you needed to have your candidate win, the campaign processes or procedures would have enabled you to do that. And the electoral umpire observed that the results that came could not be swayed by any force or any emotion or interest. Instead, the electoral umpire in Brazil did what was right and declared da Silva the winner. And it doesn't matter whether da Silva was in jail for some time, and the Supreme Court later on cleared him, so he was qualified. A lot of persons that protested, especially those that protested yesterday, over 1,500 of the protesters have been arrested. A lot of them are protesting that he ought to be in jail. So they're even ignoring the fact that he won in the election. So if the Supreme Court could clear him, and we expect the Brazilians in general to be law-abiding, we resort to the Supreme Court judgment. And judgment came that da Silva was not guilty as charged. So that was what qualified him to run for that position. And as we say, lo and behold, he won. Bolsonaro is angry, and the anger has nothing to really bring to the table as to whether his claims were right or wrong. He didn't win in the election. If he had won as a sitting president, he had all to take, all the maneuverings to do to win. In the face of all that, he lost out. So the first thing the politician does when he loses an election is to deny the result. So I'm not surprised at the denial. They even ran to Florida, to the hospital. He is not truly sick. The doctor said that wasn't a major challenge. So he ran to Florida hospital, and that same Monday yesterday, more protesters came and is denying knowledge of what happened. So you don't destroy a place that you have lived in, or you might want to come back and rule as a president.
All right. I will come back to you, Honorable. Honorable Desmond, you heard me say the protests doesn't have a foundation and is baseless. That was the first strong term he used. Do you share his views?
Of course. Election is about victory and loss. One prayed to be at the victorious side. At the beginning, the whole world knew it, that the election will turn out to be like this. Reason being that, you know, when Luis Inácio Lula da Silva was impeached, or rather removed from office around 2010, when he was alleged to have collected bribe from a contractor by this Petrobras company. Little did we know that when you are right and your hands are clean, they said he who comes to equity should come with clean hands. Did we know that the Supreme Court of Brazil will come out to say that judgment that sent him to 520 days in prison, or rather 18 months behind bar, will be invalidated and nullified. And the period within which he was in the prison, recall that Dilma Rousseff became the president. Both of them were from the Workers' Party. And that he did well. I was here in this studio sometimes around 2016 when we talked about Dilma Rousseff and indeed Lula da Silva, who did well to alleviate the sufferings of the workers and indeed the citizens of Brazil. And you know, even Dilma Rousseff, that was in charge at the time in her second term, was impeached, and Michel Temer became an acting president between May and August. Not until he was made the acting president, he became the substantive president for 2 years and ended his tenure in 2018 before the man in question now, Jair Bolsonaro, was made the president. Recall that whether Bolsonaro is denying the fact that he instigated the protest and the riot that bedeviled the three arms of government in Brazil, first in its kind, one will be tempted to compare this riotous episode of Brazilian reigning crisis to that of Donald Trump 2020 capital upheaval. And we knew how those who were culpable, who were found guilty, those who were immediately and remotely involved in it have been investigated and found wanting.
Okay.
But for this man who has found a safe place in Florida, Orlando Hospital, only yesterday that the wife, Michelle, came out to say that, yes, the husband has been hospitalized as a result of abdominal discomfort, owing to the knife attack that he sustained during a rally in 2018.
Okay.
How come it was that same yesterday that she took to her Instagram handle to begin to insinuate, or rather allege, that the husband, who has made categorical statement that ignited the crisis that is currently rocking Brazilian government as it were,
I will.
It's unfortunate that when you lose, you should lose gallantly.
I'll come back to you, Honorable.
Win victoriously and allow tomorrow to favor you or otherwise.
Okay, now you just started drawing an analogy between the U.S. situation, talking about the capital riot, and of course what happened in Brazil, what's going on right now in Brazil. But in that particular U.S. capital riot, Donald Trump, via Twitter handle, told them to come out to come defend democracy. But Bolsonaro never did that. He only said, look, he never believed that Lula da Silva won the election, but later he accepted, and that was it. So how come Honorable is not linking it to him?
I will tell you.
Hold on. I need Barrister. Barrister, please.
I quite agree with what the Honorable has said. His position, I align with his position. And what is happening just now in Brazil is not just a special or specific to Brazil as a state in the international community, but is similar to what happens in the third world nations, so to speak. Third
world nations.
Yes. What is happening just now in Brazil. Just like the Honorable said, for me, I likened it to the capital palaver we had under President Donald Trump. But one thing that beats me hollow in the whole of this saga is that this protest is about 10 weeks now, and it has not been arrested. Only until just yesterday, 1,500 persons have been arrested, and the government is now telling the world that these persons will be investigated and charged to court as appropriate. I quite agree with them. But the question, the germane question is this: why did the government allow this to generate for this period of time? Why? So that now gives me the suspicion that there is something that somebody somewhere is not telling us. Because just now, the people have occupied the four heads of the constitutional power in Brazil.
Yeah.
One, the president, the speaker of the assembly, then the chief justice of the nation, then the vice president. These are the four major constitutional powers in Brazil. They just had meeting yesterday. It was after their meeting that suddenly 1,005 persons were arrested. So where has the security agencies been for all this while? Why is it that Brazil has not been protected? Why is it that these persons have not been questioned until now? Now Bolsonaro himself is hiding somewhere. Permit my language. Permit my language. The man is hiding.
He's in a hospital
in Florida. And the wife came out to tell the world that he is there because of the star he received during a campaign, and the so, and the man is having abdominal discomfort, and that the man needs prayers. What type of prayer does she want people to render on behalf of her husband? See, politicians, particularly in the third world nation, must know how to accept defeat and know how to say tomorrow is also pregnant. I may also have the opportunity to go on. Look, I just pray that what is happening to Brazil just now will not be the fate of Nigerians come 2023 after the general election. No, that's why I said I pray. Because third world nations don't have the spirit of sportsmanship. I must tell you. Whether politically, economically, or otherwise, even spiritually, third world nations don't have that spirit. And that's why just now, we must all, as a matter of fact, learn from what is going on in Brazil. So that, because the general election is less than 40 days from today. So, if we learn from it, then we now know that, look, sportsmanship, if you lose, so be it. If you win, glory be to God. And we'll all celebrate it together. But where you said no, it must be I. That is where the I syndrome is the problem. The I syndrome is what is causing the problem just now in Brazil. And also, you know, just now, the governor of Brasilia, which is the capital of Brazil, is also running up and down. The man is looking for how to bring, because people are beginning to point finger of accusation at him. That, look, you cannot tell us that you are the governor. You swore to protect lives and property, and this thing has been happening for about 10 weeks now, and you kept mute, and now you are telling us that you want peace or that what? So questions are begging for answers.
All right, questions are begging for answers. After all, like what you rightly said, you know, we'll talk about the skirmish riots. When the results were announced, we were like, you know, okay, fine, people came out to protest, but in a mind for, though they blocked the major highways, they were able to clear them, saying, look, you have to go back to your home. They started coming out from disgruntled elements, started gathering momentum first week, second week, fifth week, and now the 10th week. Does it mean that the security personnel, they were asleep all this while? How come, like what you rightly asked, is now they are coming out to make arrests?
Yes, it's better late than never. And as you can observe on this floor right now, wishing you agree with me now that there's a counter-protest from here. There's a tripartite counter-protest.
Okay.
And I believe that the Brazilians, especially the protesters, are listening to us. So now, what is happening in Brazil is something I want to refer to as unnecessary. If you want to protest, you should have a basis for the protest. If at the point they were having electionary campaigns here and there, and you brought out some issues that to the point that, okay, let's go to court to challenge all of this, you kept quiet. So the things that actually went wrong, I'm very happy right now that the matter has been nipped in the bud a little bit.
A little
Yes,
bit?
because the governor of Brasilia has been suspended for 90 days for kind of silence. It was a painful silence. He was silent about a lot of things that went negatively. He didn't speak a word. And if he had said something, as Barrister said, he has sworn to protect lives and property. He kept quiet. Your quietness would have been interpreted or misinterpreted, and the outcome of that interpretation is the protest or riot that is going on now. So it's a lesson for other world leaders. You were there to say something, and you refused to say something. If the outgone president is thinking he ought to have been the president second term, he should draw inspiration from former President Goodluck Jonathan. A sitting president lashed out, and before the results were announced on national TV, newspapers, former President Goodluck Jonathan congratulated now President Muhammadu Buhari. So why can't he do the same thing? That's sportsmanship. Even if you're going to rule, it is tenure-based. A time will surely come that you will leave that position. So if you have that right mindset, their life is just live and let live. So what has come to this point now is the lackadaisical attitude of the governor of Brasilia. In other words, it was in agreement with Bolsonaro that Da Silva shouldn't be president. So if you want to lead the people, all the resources he has put in, that's why the protest started increasing from week 1 now to week 10. And the action the security forces are taking now, in a short while, all these protests will go down. Go down.
Will go down. Now, these guys were at the military cantonment. They were outside calling for military intervention, that democracy in Brazil has been given a dirty slap. They should come take over. They were out there in the streets, going about, not only in Brasilia, in other cities also of Brazil. They were airing their views and, of course, their opinions, and nothing seems to have been done about it. Do you think that somewhere along the line, these top government officials are in support of what they have at the back of their mind, that this isn't what they were expecting to see? That what they are doing really is in defense of democracy?
We see. They have been described as anti-democratic protesters. There is no iota of definition can reverse that. You said earlier on that the president, the ex-president now, Bolsonaro, they have not instigated the protesters to do what they did or what they are doing. But there were some precedents that suggested that the man has instigated these people before he left on the 30th of December. He knew that his successor will take over office on the 1st of January. And he hasn't been hospitalized at that period. He didn't leave the country for a medical treatment.
Because the pains were not there. Not that severe, according to him.
Now, the man, are you aware that he has been constantly accusing the Supreme Court of taking side with opposition prior to the election? He also was seen criticizing the electoral umpire prior to that election, an indication that he knew what is going to befall him as a candidate. He is the first in the history of Brazil to seek for a re-election and lost. Others have been getting it, seek re-election, they win, or they better just stand out, like Michel Temer, who after completing the 2 years of holding a brief after Dilma Rousseff were impeached, he refused to contest. Not that there were not protestations against his administration. Just like he mentioned, that is why I want to allude to his submission that, look, it appears that Brasilia is a third world country. The rate at which they protest at the slightest kind of resentment over the government is alarming, and even in the third world country in Africa, they can't do that. So we discovered that the words he uttered, initially he appeared to have submitted or honored to defeat, until Steve, a very close ally to Donald Trump, who also instigated the capital crisis, started now criticizing the electoral umpire that they must have committed fraud that saw the emergence of Lula da Silva. All these are more point accusing finger to Bolsonaro, but not to say that there is a legal ground yet that is enough to incriminate him. But ordinarily, using the social media and every other form to communicate his supporters, who have been in the street for quite some time now, following the announcement that Lula da Silva has emerged as a president. Now let us look at the tacit connivance of the police, the military, and indeed some critical elements and stakeholders of the Brazil. We are talking about the personality of Bolsonaro. He is a retired army captain. The reason why they choose to camp in the front of the military headquarters, nothing was done to these people. They keep increasing in numbers, and there must have been some sponsors for them to remain in the street for quite some long. And we also discover, just like as he mentioned, that the governor of Bolsonaro state has been placed on suspension for 90 days. And not also, in addition, that the security secretary has been fired. The reason why, the day he was fired, more persons were arrested. And we were also told, and we discovered, even in the footage, that the police were discussing with the protesters freely. Perhaps they were told what to do, which is likely to the era of Anini and Iyamu, who were telling them go to north, that will be going to roadblock in the south, so that they can have a free day. All these were the explicit connivance that Lula da Silva pointed out when he said that there are some sponsors. Even the police could be culpable. Right. But investigation is up. One thing I, as a person, will advise Lula da Silva is that he should be very careful. We know that Putin has placed a call to him, supporting his government. BD has equally called and invited him. By February, he will be visiting US. Other notable countries, including the Chinese government has equally reached out to him.
We'll get to that angle. They are calling right now.
This man is not a normal man. 77 years.
Okay.
The outgoing president, 67 years.
7 years.
It is now we begin to learn
get to that
age of Methuselah has nothing to do with the wisdom of King Solomon.
I think I know where I'm going to right now. Honorable, calm down. Calm down. I'll come back to you on that. Now, it's true that various presidents of various countries globally are beginning to call to show support and solidarity for Lula da Silva's government. But let's take a look at another angle where you get to see another pro-Lula da Silva protesters coming out right now in the large numbers to counter the protest of the pro-Bolsonaro, supporters. It's like,
that's politics.
Yeah, it's like each group is beginning to answer to their name. Do you think this will help the polity right now in Brazil? Two groups protested for and, of course, against. Take it up from there.
Well, it will hit the polity more. But I want to tell you, Wilson, commonsensically and in consonance with the principles of reasonable test, I, for one, would want to finger Bolsonaro in all the drama that is happening just now in Brazil.
But it's not there.
That's
like
why
Trump was present in America, but this guy is in Florida.
That is why I said, in consonance with the principle of reasonable test, and if you marry it with common sense, I don't need an angel to tell me that the man is responsible for all the drama. I do not need that. I do not need divinity to come and make an announcement that this man has been fingered. Now, looking at all the drama, let us also look at the body language of the international community. Now, when crises emerge, or in third world nation, Brazil just now is not differ or is not separated from the third world nation, Brazil. When crisis commence in third world nation, the way the international communities pamper that crisis is a cause for another worry. Now, we see a situation where after 10 weeks, they are now calling the sitting president to a kind of a give an approval of either partial recognition of his government or full recognition of his government. To my mind, I think that is not necessary just now. What ought to be done from the beginning of this crisis is to see how this crisis could be arrested. What counsel, what advice, what measure? Because the indices on the ground just now indicates that this crisis, if not arrested, may metamorphose into another thing, that the whole world will begin to run helter-skelter again. So, all that we have experienced, particularly at this epoch, we've experienced the Russia-Ukrainian war, which is still on. We've experienced the Chinese-Taiwan, the North Korea, South Korea, and other ones in the third world nations that are not even announced. What has the international community do about all of this? See, electoral crisis is not crisis any nation should experience, because you know it will begin to take different dimensions. And just like every one of us has opined here, you discover that the governor just now has just been expected, or Brazil has just been suspended. Why? Then it is similar to what is happening in third world nations, and particularly in our nation just now, where somebody occupies a political office and see that office as an avenue to protect his ethnic group, friends, family members, and otherwise. That is what happens in runs through third world nations, and that is what has happened in Brazil. And thank God that just now the persons are beginning to see, look, we must do something, and some persons have been suspended. Why this long? So if you look at the whole drama that is playing out just now in Brazil, I think it's a signal to the third world nations particularly those that may have elections in this year 2023, to begin to know the right step to take, so that justice will prevail, so that there will be free, fair, and credible elections, so that we will not experience what the Brazilians are experiencing now.
All right, now this is the man, Lula da Silva, the president of Brazil. He ordered the arrest of over 1,500 persons and, of course, suspension of Brazilian governor. And he said all those people that are involved one way or the other will be dealt with. Is that not too harsh? Knowing fully well that you just be given that man to do, he won the election last year. He started his work this year, 1st of January.
Yeah, the action,
taking that step.
Yeah, the action of step is about taking, is a type in the right direction, because things must not go this wrong way. And as a president, if he had cried out much earlier, I'm sure the international communities would have come to his rescue. Maybe he felt he could handle it. And knowing fully well also that Brazil is a sovereign nation. No matter what is happening, if there's smoke somewhere, an international community cannot just rush there. If you don't ask for their support, they will leave you. I'm sure the way it's going now, Da Silva would have asked for the intervention of the various international communities. Why I'm thinking right here that this protest or riot will not last for maybe next 1 or 2 weeks. Is on the platform that Putin from Russia, China, US, UK, they are agreeing with the new president. If there have been a division, as has always been, China will join forces with Russia, that we don't like this president. US will join, that's okay, we like this president. That will begin to have that deeper fear that this riot might escalate. But before you know it now, they'll lose strength. Because the way they are going, 1,500 and above have been arrested. They will ask you, why are you protesting? Is it about the candidacy of this president that you should have protested against before the election? Now you have voted. Even some of them that voted for Bolsonaro, they didn't join in the protest. I read certain things about them. They said, my candidate did not win. We'll wait for subsequent elections. So I'm thinking a situation whereby some miscreants, as is common in Nigeria also, that they would have hijacked the process. Because there's no right thinking person. The electoral umpire said, this candidate won. Then the next thing to do, you seek for justice. You can go to court to challenge the victory that was given to Da Silva. Then if you are not doing that, then you are taking the laws into your hands. So what the president is doing right now is a right step in the right direction, which he ought to have done much earlier. That's why I earlier said that it's better late than never. He should have done this, taken this action the first 1 week. But not as snowballed into 10 weeks. And people were being strengthened that we did the first week, nothing happened to us. Second, third, this is the 10th week, nothing happened. But now they will see a different thing entirely. The lamb in the president will turn to becoming a lion. So it's a lion kind of boldness that this president is doing now. It was quiet all these weeks. I just became a president. Should I just start with crisis? Maybe you're trying to calm their nerves here and there. I'm sure if you had had Wilson's number to begin to announce to them, watch your emotions. But I'm sure he had no access to you. So their emotions were thrown overboard. The person you are clamoring for that should have been the president decided to run to US. Why did he join in the protest? Why did his wife and his children join in the protest? The person you are protesting for is right there in Florida enjoying himself. And you are in the impoverished part of Brazil saying that he ought to have come back to become president. So what the president is doing right now, Da Silva, is a right step. Those should have been much earlier that should have taken this action.
All right. In all of this, nobody mentioned Bolsonaro. Even the president of Brazil never mentioned Bolsonaro, just saying the people are protesting The governor suspended for 90 days after 3 months. Dismantled those people encamping in front of the military installation. Cleared the streets. Nobody, not even one, said, Bolsonaro, you are responsible for this. I mean, I don't think that man is going to with clean hands, you know. Unlike what happened during the time of the U.S. Around Capitol, where Donald Trump was fingered right from the onset of that particular unrest in the U.S.
It is not yet Uhuru for him. The investigation is ongoing. 1,500 people have been arrested. Before they are done with the questioning of these persons, something will happen that will shock you. Note also here and now that one of his nephews was among those arrested who was protesting. If he had told his family member to stay clear that he lost, will the nephew be available to cheer the protesters or even lead the protest?
It could just be
It could
just be on his own
investigation. Yeah, we unveil that. But let me tell you that Bolsonaro, whether he's trying to claim innocence or not, there is no way he cannot be found culpable, directly or indirectly. But let us leave that for the investigative personnel to reveal that. Because as we speak, we knew, just like as you mentioned, that those who are protesting in support, this is not a protest now, but a solidarity march in support of Da Silva's government, are in the street. That I'm sure the security personnel are there to escort them so that it doesn't degenerate. That is pure politics. There will be some who are against and those who are in support. And that is what we are saying. Now, the issue of whether Da Silva would have come up early enough to quell the uprising, perhaps he didn't do that early enough, will not come here. That question will not come because, look, Bolsonaro did not hand over to him. The period between October and this January 1st would have been a period where a transition government or a transition committee would have been set up to work with the outgoing government to take stocks of assets and liability with a view to enable the incoming government to have a smooth transition. That didn't play out. And we have also been told that the security, because the man, because he's from the military background, owns the military well to his chest, as well as the security, the police this time around. The reason why the police security secretary was fired, and you see police were hobnobbing with the protesters, nobody was arrested, few people were arrested, and those people were those perhaps that were too extreme in their protestation. Note also that 5 hand grenades were discovered. 3 from the Supreme Court building
Premises, yeah.
and 2 from the Congress building. An indication that this one is more than the eye can see. It is like a coup d'etat. Because when the Capitol invasion happened, they targeted the parliamentary arm of government only. Yeah. But this time, it was a well-coordinated attack, a well-coordinated invasion. Some went to the presidential palace, others went to the Supreme Court, while the others went to the Congress. An indication that they want to seize the 3 arm of government and take over government by force. Recall that even in their inscription, in the placard they were carrying, and indeed what they were telling the military, they were asking that the military should come and intervene and take over. Now, the worst crime they have committed against the Brazilian National Football Federation now is the usage of their jersey. Jersey was used as the Brazilian government has intended to unite the Brazilian and bring peace and harmony to the people. The reason why, when they are playing football, both the supporters and those who are not supporting, they wear the national jersey.
Yeah.
But this time around, they want to leverage on the fact that those who are wearing jersey now, perhaps they are football fans, they want to catch in on that and use it to now sabotage the national government.
All right.
And that in itself is a crime against the government. So for those who may have been arrested now, they have a lot of questions to answer. It is after their deposition that it will not be safe for you to say, whether Bolsonaro is culpable or not.
All right.
Because until then, we keep our fingers crossed.
Okay. Still holding on to keeping our fingers crossed, because right now they're trying to dismantle all these protesters saying you guys should go home. These are like, hot-headed, are being apprehended and arrested over 1,500. But come on, is that not a violation of human rights? The right to protest? You're a legal practitioner.
Every right has an exception. Where the right of A stops, that is where the right of B begins.
And so we're just there marching along the streets. They are not armed, but they were arrested.
Yeah, what about the grenades that have been discovered?
No, all this one they were like, arrested according to report. Those grenades were planted.
Who planted them?
Good question.
Is it me?
Good
Who
question.
Is seated here?
Who planted them really?
Listen, democracy is defined as the government of who? The people. For the people and who? And by the people. That is what democracy is defined. Now, in a situation where XYZ loses an election, we did agree here that the spirit of sportsmanship should be the order of the day. Should be the watchword. See, for the fact that Mr. A loses an election, it's not the end of that. We saw, history has it, where somebody contested for about 9 times before he became the president of the United States of America, the person of Abraham Lincoln. And today, history recognizes that man because the man wrote his name on the sand of time. We also saw in this our country, the sitting president just now contested how many times? Is it not 4 times? And he won the 4th time. So the issue of saying because I lose, the I syndrome should be jettisoned in all ramifications of life. Because tomorrow is pregnant, and what tomorrow is carrying, you do not know. You only know of today, just now, that you are facing. So, looking at the protests in Brazil, to my mind, is uncalled for. And if you look at the persons who have come out, the young minds are in dominance. So, the young minds should learn how to understudy others, because looking at all the persons who have contested, both the one that lost and the one in power, they are all elders, so to speak. The young man should learn how to understudy the elders in some aspects, so that the principle of taking over, the principle of say tomorrow we may be there, should be our watchword. So going on the streets, planting grenades, whether they are the one or not, investigation has not revealed that. But trying to truncate. No, Brazil is a 3rd world nation, just have described her.
Okay.
Just to truncate democracy and calling for military intervention. It's unnecessary.
All right, gentlemen.
Because the truth is this: the worst democracy is better than the best military regime you could have.
Many people may differ on that. Everybody have their own comments on that. So, gentlemen,
if you are
1 minute
you
each.
are one of the protesters.
I just said many because everyone is entitled to their own opinion. So, gentlemen, 1 minute each. What advice do you have for Bolsonaro? Should he go all out as an iron fist to say, look, you must be punished severely, or should look for other means to bring Brazil together? Because it stands, believe it or not, Brazil is divided. For the outgone president to have such a crowd to have such a number of persons saying we've been cheated, that means he has backup, he has supporters, and Brazil is now just there. What advice do you have for the protesters and of course for the president and other countries watching that will soon be conducting their elections? 1 minute each. Some of your points.
Yes, the protesters are a disappointment to the Brazilian nation and to the whole world. On the 29th of December last year, Pele died, and he was just buried last week. So it's expected that Brazil should be in a mourning mood. So I don't know where they got that strength from. Maybe the ones that killed Pele himself. So right now, they should have been mourning. The whole world is looking at us, celebrating an icon, a world footballer, and now what we are viewing is even from what we are thinking. That we are sympathizing. Condolences, Brazil, condolences. But now, the person you want to condole with is fighting on the streets. So they should be ashamed of themselves.
All right. Calm down. Motion.
Yeah.
That is Brazil, not Nigeria.
They should be ashamed of themselves.
Honorable, over to you.
My
1 minute.
advice
Yes.
is for Da Silva and the protesters. Firstly, the protesters should know that they shouldn't take laws into their hands. They are not the persons who contested. It was Bolsonaro. Excepting they are acting the script written by Bolsonaro. And if they are, they will face the law squarely. And for Da Silva, you know, I see him as somebody that has experience. And that if he did not make such statement that he's going to deal squarely with those who are found culpable, others will continue to perpetuate it. So at least that statement has gone a long way to calm nerves. And he should go ahead to recall and note that he is not in charge of the Congress. It is the opposition that is in charge. I know he will navigate his way and make sure that he did a thorough investigation to unravel those who are immediately responsible and those who are remotely responsible for this arrest. And at the end of the day, I'm very optimistic that he will network internally and internationally to bring peace to the Brazil nation.
Thank you so much, Honorable Desmond. Well,
The protesters should know that football is a religion in Brazil, and the religion called football in Brazil is a religion of unity. I think if there is any time Brazilians should unite, this is the time they should unite. If for nothing but for the demise of great Pelé. Then Bolsonaro also have a role to play. The man should come back home and tell the people, look, I did not send you all of this. We are one united Brazil, and so we shall remain. That will stop all of this.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. Let's see if Bolsonaro will make a comment or a statement after all this. Mind you, according to report, he's in pains. He's suffering from the abdominal stab he received in course of the campaign in his election. Let's see how all this will pan out. But fighting, protesting, destroying government properties is not going to make the state of Brazil enjoy the dividends of democracy. Nations in Africa conducting election, learn from Brazil. If you're a loser, lose gallantly. Congratulate the winner. If you're a winner, win. But ultimately, you extend the house of fellowship to others. After all, it's one country. Let's see how they really settle this upheaval in Brazil. See you next week, Tuesday. God willing. Bye for now.